What's up, summoners? King Blair here. Today, for Epic 7 Storytime, we're gonna be diving into the events that happen in episode 1. We have discussed a lot previously, and this will be the first video of a series of videos describing episode 1 because while reading this amazing story that the developers have given to us, I had 2 hours reading everything and realized I barely made it to chapter 1 of episode 1. So to do the story justice, this will be a 3-part episode. If you do like the video and want to see more story times, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment down below. While these videos still don't do the most, it is still one of the favorites of you guys, and all the comments and support you guys have shown for this video is what motivates me to continue these story times. So keep commenting if you like this type of video. As far as to how the video will break down, we'll first do a quick recap of things that we have discovered in the past for the events leading into episode 1, and then we'll move forward to talking about each individual chapter and key events that happen in each. Hopefully this will give you a better story on what is actually going on so you can enjoy the characters and enjoy this amazing game that developers have put out. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Also, quick PSA, if you didn't know, this is how you're going to be getting your journal pack. So a lot of people ask me this in my videos. You see right here, when you go to the Epic 7 Story Journal, you can get here and receive your background pack that you can actually put in the background of your characters. But enough about that, let's start with the background. So now let's do a quick recap over what we talked about in previous videos. You are welcome to look at them, talking about the Archdemon War, the other worlds, and the setup with all the different gods and the different players that come into play before the player even starts the game, right? So just a quick recap going over those so you guys get a little bit more and get in the mood for episode 1 storyline. So the biggest thing that you need to know is that you, the player, are going to be playing as Ross in episode 1. Now this whole time, before the player even starts, the only thing you know is that the 6th world was destroyed. As you saw, Ross lost, and the events of episode 1 take place when Ross wakes up. What you don't know, and that we discussed in other videos, is that there was another Archdemon War without your presence, where a lot of people died and a lot of things got really screwed up, and you kind of just slept through and weren't there to do your job as the heir of the Covenant. So coming into episode 1, the Archdemon was able to be sealed by the people, but massive sacrifices had to take place. So, as you can tell, and as rightly justified, everyone kind of hates you, right? Because you were supposed to protect them from the Archdemon, and you didn't, right? And Charon, we already know, is having a lot of influence with all the acolytes and the Archdemons. So we're coming into the story with everyone hating you, the player, as the heir of the Covenant, sent by the goddess to protect the people. So hopefully that summarizes it a little bit. Just know the dynamics that right now you slept through a war, that's why everyone hates you, so you can kind of understand where these people are coming from. But without that, let's get to the first part of the story. Now, let's start by summarizing the events that took place in chapter 1, episode 1 storyline. So, you wake up as Ross with the 3 Sisters Merchant Guild in an unknown location. You find out from them that the Archdemon War took 20 place before you woke up, which you're visibly confused as Ross because you're like, what the heck? I'm supposed to wake up and stop the Archdemon. And they let you know that Deanne was the one that sent you here because she felt your body wasn't safe where it normally is in the sanctuary in Ezera. So, visibly confused, you're like, I need to talk to Queen Deanne. And Vildred comes to escort you to Queen Deanne, sends news of you waking up, have made it across. Ross, seeing Vildred, is excited to see his old comrade who he fought alongside, but Vildred has no recollections because, as you remember, it is the 7th world. All the other worlds get essentially wiped out and reset. So Vildred is kind of like, why do you know me? That's kind of weird. And is visibly confused, and you just go along with him, and he's just very snarky, being like, oh, nice power, would have been nice to have you in the Archdemon War. You run into Prince Aether, who is completely happy to see you, and it's like, oh my god, it's the heir of the Covenant, and Ezera, who, similar to Vildred, is also very snarky towards you, and it's kind of like, yeah, nice of you to finally wake up 20 years after the Archdemon War and after we sealed it and a bunch of people died, right? So both of them are pretty salty, which kind of just shows you how the whole world kind of hates you right now. But you go with Prince Aether and Vildred, and you're like, where's my guardian Archie? We need to go find him before we meet the queen. So as you're going to the castle, Archie, if you all remember Guardians, they are assigned to an heir, and Archie is the guardian of the heir of the Covenant who fights alongside Ross to keep the kingdom at peace. And what we find out is that Archie did wake up in time to fight the Archdemon, but without his heir, without Ross. So Arky has gone through a lot, right? He feels abandoned. He feels like he did all this stuff, all this work, and his master still didn't wake up. And he's visibly sad, although he runs away from you in this very funny moment, and it's a very comedic moment. It's still very sad to think about that Arky had to fight all by himself and wanted to just retire peacefully. But Ross does call him back, and with some sweets, they get Arky, and we go and head to talk to Queen Diani. So we reach Diani. She kind of gives you the rundown, which I'm also going to give you the rundown to what the heck is going on. I'm so confused. Why does everyone hate me? Right? So she lets you know that the Archdemon the war was fought 20 years ago, and they were only able to seal the Archdemon with the sacrifices from the Nocturnes. So what we learn is the Archdemon is not actually destroyed because the only one that can actually do that is Ross with the power of the Heir of the Covenant. So Queen Diani is kind of like, hey, we have to go and destroy the Archdemon. And she lets Raz know all the bad stuff, why everyone hates him, and with clear reason, right? She's like, there's a lot of people that hate you and are trying to bring back the Archdemon because they think that this world kind of sucks, right? So they're trying to bring back the Acolytes and all the bad stuff because they think this sucks. So let's just get rid of the Archdemon, go to the 6th century across 6 different countries that are protected by a barrier. Right? We also here meet Mercedes, who is a Wraith. If y'all didn't know, Wraiths are monsters created by the Archdemon to fight in the Archdemon's army. So Ross is like, what the heck? It's a Wraith. Why is Queen Diani siding with the Wraith? We found out Mercedes is also was brought to Ezera to Queen Diani by Kra, which we'll talk about way later down the line. But Kra is another heir, right? So Diani trusts her, and because Diani trusts her, Ross eventually is like, okay, I guess I can trust her too. And they find out, even though she's a Wraith, she's actually a pretty good person, right? She's pretty chill. And then Diani's like, all right, let's head to the Sanctuary. Let's bring this whole army to show everyone that Ross is here to end the Archdemon and end it all. So you, Diani, Vildred, Ezera, all of y'all go to the Sanctuary. Diani lowers the barrier of where the Archdemon is sealed and lets you know that you will have to go across the 6 different countries and let the leaders of each of the countries know that, hey, I'm there, the Covenant, I'm here to destroy the Archdemon, and they will let the barrier down for you so that you can do your job. We go inside the temple, just Diani, Vildred, and Ezera, and Diani goes ahead to prepare everything for Ross as well as Vildred. Before going though, Vildred does ask you a very important question. When you are going, Vildred goes to you and asks you, are you going to keep fighting forever and ever? And Ross thinks of all the things that have been going on, how Deech's power is going down, how the world is really falling apart because you weren't there and because of all the resets that have happened. 7 different resets. And Ross says, knowing that he kind of is lying to Vildred, I will fight as long as it needs. Even though the Archdemon will keep coming back and there will be countless different wars, he tells Vildred he will keep fighting as long as there is hope, instead of telling Vildred the truth. Vildred says, thanks for your answer. We cut back in the future to how Ross says, I wish I could have changed what happens. And we're basically confused because we're like, that's a pretty good answer, right? He's trying to fight. But we found out later on, Vildred, your comrade, goes ahead of you, kills Queen Diani, and heads to where the Archdemon's Might is located. The Archdemon's Might you're supposed to destroy. Goes in and takes the power of the Archdemon himself. Your comrade, your first in command, your best friend, takes the power of Archdemon and will stand against you. When you see him taking the power, you say, why are you doing this? How could you? And Vildred tells you, I know the truth. Charon opened my eyes. So Charon, as we mentioned, is an acolyte, and he allowed Vildred to keep his memories of the past. Vildred knows what happened in the other worlds. Vildred knows that as long as Deech, as long as the Heir of the Covenant is in this world, the Archdemon will continue to come back, and an endless cycle of torture will continue that Ross did not seem like he was ready to end. So with that out of the way, Vildred says, you weren't able to deliver on your promise. You kept us in the dark. You never told us the truth. And you are not the answer to save this world. And if you won't save this world, then I will by taking the power of the Archdemon. Ross is completely destroyed at this point, and so starts our quest in Epic 7. You guys fight but are equally matched, and Vildred retreats for the time being to go to the other sanctuaries and carry out his job. It's a very sad time, and it sets up the quest for Ross, that is to go to the different places and go to the sanctuary and ultimately fight his closest friend, Vildred. But we will see how Charon's actions and letting people know the truth of the other worlds begins affecting this world, and this will go through in different parts of the storyline. So now let's go on to the next chapter. So now let's go over the events that happen in chapter 2, 3, and 4, since they are all very closely linked and there's not as much world building. I will try to go a little bit faster because there's not as many details, and a lot of the details is something I highly recommend you watch, because I teared up honestly reading a little bit of Yuna's story, right? And her full circle as she come into chapter 2 that I'm not going to be able to do it justice, as well as some other things that happen in chapter 3 and 4. So as far as chapter 2, we know we have to go to the different countries and stop the Archdemon. We've kind of failed in Ezera since Vildred kind of took it. So now we have to go to Rengar, right? So Rengar is set up as like a school. So the student council runs the country of Rengar, and the public security sector is in charge of all the security measures there, including border patrolling, right? And they're very strict on who goes in and who goes out. You go there, your papers are stolen by Guzman, who's a merchant. So you're sent to prison where you meet Yuna, who is supposed to be the student council president, because the way that they pick the student council president is by whoever the Time Guardian decides to pick as its heir. So I'm going to butcher the name, but it's like Car something. So we're just going to call him Time Guardian. He chose Yuna, but Yuna wants to just enjoy her life, right? She comes from a different dimension, and it's like, I don't want to do this. This isn't for me. I just want to do experimenting, right? So you run away with her, away from the public security sector, away from jail, and you guys are kind of hiding. Just here in this really cute picture, and Ross is like, "Why aren't you in the public security? I need you to lower the barrier, because if you are not if you're not the student council president, I can't get to the Archdemon's might. You need to lower that barrier." And Yuna's like, "But I don't want to," and he's like, running away is not going to solve your problems, right? So very inspirational talk from Ross. He's essentially like, you have to kind of own up to this, right? But she's like, I don't want to, whatever, right? So as they're going, though, they find out that Ross is like, okay, I'll help you with whatever you want. So Yuna's like, one of my machines is going haywire. They go and find a dark magic stone that has the power to summon acolytes. So as we mentioned, Charon, Tenebria, Nago, they're all very powerful acolytes that are the right hand of the Archdemon, who were sealed along with the Archdemon. But these dark stones can cause the acolytes to come back, which would be really bad for the world of Orbis. So Ross and Yuna are like, alright, we need the public security's help to find the stones. We found out this random dude from the public security, who I already forgot his name, he's kind of useless, and Guzma, who's the dark merchant. We're distributing those dark stones, and we're going to summon Tenebria. And while he was doing it, he says, Yuna, you are special and you didn't own up to it. You were supposed to be the public security. You had a silver platter handed to you, and you're turning it away and looking down on people like us. And Yuna's kind of like, oh no, but I didn't do that. And he's like, nah, you think you're so special and we're so much worse, right? So all this drama happens, and essentially they go and try to summon Tenebria, and they are successful. And Tenebria is a pretty strong acolyte, the acolyte of dreams. So she's able to create nightmares and dreams and trap people in those nightmares and dreams, and essentially take them away from reality. She comes in and she's like, alright, I need a public security sector because I need to get the Archdemon's might, right? Her whole goal is to bring the Archdemon and destroy the world of Orbis. So she's like, alright, where's my people at, right? And Yuna and Ross come in, and Ross is like, I'm gonna stop you. Yuna has her revelation, and it's like, I am gonna send up for the public security sector. I need to save my friends. So she goes, and with Ross, they go to stop Tenebria. But we find out Tenebria has set up a lot of stones, and it's gonna blow up all of Rengar, right? So in this film, we see Tenebria activating all those dark magic stones that summoned her across Rengar, and completely obliterates Rengar. Like, you see this massive thing, Rengar's getting destroyed. But Yuna's Guardian, being OP as hell, comes in and it's like, rewind that, right? So Yuna's Guardian controls time, rewinds it, and Tenebria's kind of like, okay, well, clearly I can't do anything, so she kind of goes away, right? So Ross is able to destroy the Archdemon's might in Rengar with pretty easily, right? So they get rid of Tenebria. Tenebria just runs away. They catch Guzma, and they catch the other random dude that I forgot his name. He's whatever, right? And after some things with public security, they let Ross go, and Ross can continue on to his journey. So, yeah, essentially we learn from Guzma and the merchant that they got those dark stones to summon the acolytes from a merchant in Severa. So now we're going to be going to Severa to find out who's selling these dark stones and trying to bring the archdemon back. So now let's cut to chapter 3. So now for chapter 3, as we know, we need to find out who's distributing these dark stones, right? And we find out that is Neha Queen. Again, I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. It's a merchant that deals in the dark market, right? So we go there, and another merchant, a thief, tells us, hey, we need to talk because this is really dangerous. We know you're the heir of the covenant. We need to find out who's actually distributing these dark stones, as well as who's kidnapping Suin. If y'all didn't know, Suin are essentially humanoid animals. So Cartuja is a Suin. And you go there and you run into Purgus, who tells you, my guardian was stolen, right? And Ross is like, this guy doesn't look like an heir, but we'll trust him. He takes you to a dark alley, and also Nehaquim, whoever the dark merchant, we'll just call him the dark merchant from now on. The dark merchant tells you, oh yeah, we saw the guardian down in like the drain. You go there and find Arbiter Vildred killing the guardian and saying, I am releasing you from this world. So we see the guardian there, Arbiter Vildred killing him, and he's like, I'm going to end you here. I'm going to end this endless cycle that we've been in, that humans have been suffering, right? So he like kills the guardian, and Ross and Archie are really sad because this guardian fought with them in all those different worlds, and they do still have their memories. Then Arbiter Vildred starts running away because he's like, I'm not ready to fight you, Ross, right? I'm not ready yet. I don't have enough Archdemon's might. So he kind of runs away. Running away, we run into Sigrid, who is another wraith similar to Mercedes, and she's kind of like, I'm here to stop you. You know, my job is to make sure that Arbiter Vildred gets away, right? And he was successful in stopping them from capturing Arbiter Vildred. We rendezvous with Purgus because Purgus was clearly trying to hold them back and was kind of infiltrating into their investigation. And Purgus tells him that it was all Nehaqueen, or the Dark Merchant. He's the one selling Suin. He's the one capturing Suin. He's the one dealing with all the stuff. So they're like, all right, let's go get him. Right? So they go to Nehaqueen, the Dark Merchant, and they're like, you're trafficking Suin. That's human trafficking. That's pretty bad. You're also selling them to make those dark stones. And we find here that those dark stones that are used to summon acolytes are made from sacrificing Suin. So all these people that are being sold on the slave trade are being sacrificed to create those dark magic stones that are used to summon the acolytes. And he also tells you it's the Church of Ilroy's doing it. And if you all didn't know, in the first video that we talked in Storytime, Ilroy's is Diche's sister, who's trying to get Diche to essentially leave the world of Orbis and fight in the demon war, and she's the one that sent the archdemon. So it's essentially the archdemon's church, but Ilroy's, right? So Ross is like, oh dang, how do they know about Ilroy's? It must have been Charon who told them about Ilroy's and the existence of this god, and most likely going to be Charon, right? So we do see here very graphic. So I do suggest, if you're someone that gets like a little bit iffy about stuff, it is pretty bloody, it is really sad, but we see how the dark magic stones are made. We see a lot of blood, and we see the Suin family very scared, being sacrificed by the Dark Prophet from the Ilroy's church to create the dark magic stones that will bring the acolytes and essentially bring the archdemon. Just very terrifying and very sad to think. Like, it's very dark, right? So like essentially humans are being sacrificed to create the stones that will make the archdemon. So it's starting to get really dark. I did gloss over a lot of different things and a lot of different players that come in, like Clary and Armin and all the merchants and stuff. So I recommend you read it, but it's a quick overview. So that is enough for chapter 3. But now we know the Church of Ilroy's is trying to bring the archdemon back and is in cooperation with Arbiter Vildred and with Sigrid and all these dark players. So we're gonna go to Soloyu Swamps, is where the main Church of Ilroy's is located, where the Suin are being sacrificed. Now on to chapter 4. So as we mentioned, Church of Ilroy's, basically Church of the Archdemon, trying to bring the end of the world, right? Why are they trying to do it? Because they think that the world is done for. They have been given revelations by Charon that this is the seventh world and that this struggle of fighting and war will never end. And they think that eventually the Archdemon will win. And to beg for forgiveness, they're essentially, if we let the Archdemon and help the Archdemon, then we will achieve some chance at salvation. Because clearly, Ross and the goddess is not going to do it for us. So Ross is like, all right, we need to find them out because they're making this a lot harder for me. I'm not going to be able to stop the Archdemon if all of these people are essentially messing with my investigation and interfering against me. So we find some Suin. They're kind of like, my homie's being taken. It's a weird dog, and it's like, hey, my homie's been taken. We get some stuff with Mercedes. A lot of people are biased against Mercedes. Again, she's a wraith who is essentially the Archdemon. And we do see that because Archdemon faints when she gets close to the magic of the Dark Stones, where the Dark Stones are being created. Mercedes has kind of like a flashback, collapses, and it says, don't forget what you are. You are the daughter of Illios. You are an instrument to the Archdemon. And we don't get a lot more from that, besides that, it's kind of sus, right? But Mercedes is like, I'm not that. Ross believes in me, and because Ross believes in me, I'm not a bad person, right? Eventually, Jet and the other Suin end up exiting Mercedes. But why? So they go with Mercedes to find the guy who's sacrificing all these people. They go with Cartuja. They go along the way, find all these different things, find all the effed up stuff that is happening, all the Suin, how they're being sacrificed, and eventually run into the Prophet. And when the Prophet is like being attacked, he's like, all right, I will get salvation from the Archdemon, and summons a Banshee who was summoned by sacrificing a little girl. Really, really dark stuff. Again, Church of Illios, really messed up. Doing some really sus stuff right now. Right? But they do end up stopping them. They save a bunch of Suin. They save a bunch of people. And then Cartuja, who is a Suin that helped you out before, comes up to you and it's like, you've done a great service to a Suin. Here's a whistle. It will come back in the future. And he's eventually like, if you ever need help, call on the Suin, we will come to your aid, right? So you're our homie now. And also, Mercedes, you're cool. You're a good wraith. You showed that there are bad people in the world. There are bad wraiths, but there are also good people in the world and good wraiths, right? So yeah, we're in a pretty good spot. So this kind of ends an arc because it's kind of like the setup, right? So this is a setup of episode 1. Next is going to be all the fighting because in chapter 5, Acolytes are coming back. And now, from chapter 5 to chapter 10, it's like fight after fight after fight. So that will be covered in a later video. So that is all I have for you guys today. I hope y'all enjoyed. I know it's going to be a lot of different videos because as we saw, it's a very deep lore and I glossed over so much stuff. I highly, highly recommend you go back and read the storyline. It took me 2 hours just to get to this point, and I was tearing up when I was reading Yuna's story. I was just like, oh my gosh, Yuna's growth, so much. Like, crazy. Right? So, I hope you guys liked it. Make sure you like, comment down below if you enjoy it. If there's anything that didn't make sense, or if you have any questions or any discussion points you want to bring up, make sure you put it down in the comments. And before I leave, again, I'm going to tell you, go watch this animation. It's amazing. It's hype. It's lit. I'll let it run for a couple of seconds. But it kind of gives an overview to the world of Epic 7. They do a really good job. They show a couple of spoilers here and there too. So really solid overall, right? I like it, right? So make sure you watch this in full with its animations, in its full glory. But that is all for the first part. The next part, depending on how much support this video gets, will either be next week or will be in 2 weeks, right? So make sure you smash that like button. Comment down below and subscribe so we can finish chapter 1. The next one will be the war against the Acolytes essentially. So we'll try to cover all the way up to chapter 9/10 to the final war and kind of like the effects of the afterwards. Because there's still a lot, right? So I hope y'all enjoy it and I will see y'all next time. Peace.